Hello? Oh.
At a certain but yeah, that relationship with Sailor Moon and Darien was just I couldn't get behind it.
Hello, this is Kanoshi Abominita here with another episode of Project Console, episode 16. You gotta believe. And before we get into our topics, the panelists like to introduce themselves. Joel, would you like to start us off?
Surely. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen of all ages, to Project Console. I'm Joe Wright Eli Moonstar, and we have plenty of interesting topics for you tonight. I'm sorry if that sounded robotic.
This is Mr. Red Fox, and I'm my own podcast is BS Busters, but I'm not here for my podcast. We're here for Kenoshi's Project Console, and looking forward to a great cast.
All right. And this is your host, Kanoshi Abominito. Without any further ado, let's get right into the topics. So our first topic is Banjo-Kazooie has released for the premium online service for Nintendo Switch, as well as Nintendo finally, or Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, finally getting some of its bugs fixed, emulation fixed. So far, Nintendo has been releasing N64 games every month, at least, and they announced that Majora's Mask is coming out next month. So, what are your guys' thoughts?
Progress. Slow progress, but progress.
I'm going to be the contrarian here because obviously I'm always the contrarian. Not always, but quite a bit.
Here it comes.
I think that giving them accolades for something that they should be doing is like, it's like that old Chris Rock joke where some guy's like, I take care of my kids. Like, you're supposed to take care of your kids. And in terms of business, well, they're releasing one game per month. Okay, you're charging people $50 a year for this. You better be releasing something per month. And that's the bare minimum you could do.
Yeah.
So they're doing the bare minimum. And I don't think they should be getting accolades for it. I think that right now, I think them releasing Ocarina of Time with that shoddy emulation was inexcusable. Not because the emulation was shoddy, but because they've had Legend of Zelda emulated on 2 other occasions. And it was done better on those 2 other occasions than it is on their latest generation hardware, which is embarrassing.
I mean, I would agree for the most part. I mean, it's inexcusable. It shouldn't have been, because they've had with the Nintendo Wii and Wii U, they've had the emulation down. Like every game ran. Like this is how intricate the emulation was for the virtual consoles and their previous 2 consoles. Is every game ran in its own proprietary emulator.
Oh, I wasn't even talking about the virtual console emulation. That was just one example. They emulated Ocarina of Time on the Master, the Master Quest disc that came out on the GameCube. Yeah. So even one generation removed, they had better emulation than they do now on their latest generation hardware. That's embarrassing.
It shouldn't have came out in the state that it did. Like, this is Nintendo prides themselves in having that great quality that people know them for, and it's
embarrassing.
It's embarrassing. Like what's going on over there at the House of Mario? What are they doing over there?
Well, it's hard for me to it's really hard for me to defend Nintendo. It's hard for me to say, well, they know how to let you have past gaming experiences on new hardware when they're charging people $50 a year to rent these games because you're essentially renting them. You're not able to buy them and play them whenever you want to. And okay, fair enough. You're charging people $50 to buy into the service. You could at least have good emulation on the service, and they don't. Even now, the upgrades that they did just are it's very bare minimum. It's like an afterthought. And I'm a Nintendo fan, but that doesn't mean they can everything they do. I'm just gonna say, well, it's piss poor, but I'm a fan, so I'm gonna let it slide. No, they're better than this. I've seen them do better than this. Heck, they were better than this last gen. Where last gen on the Virtual Console they had 473 games across multiple console generations.
Yeah.
They don't have anything close to that on their library, so I don't. They're doing the bare minimum. Congratulations, they're like a student who took a test and did just enough to get a D.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it seems like things have gotten better, but I mean, this is what we should have had from the beginning. But I mean, if you're one of those people out there that have paid for this service, hopefully at some point you get your money's worth. Anyway, is there anything else you guys would like to say before we move on to the next topic?
I hope they do better.
Yeah. Joel, is there anything you'd like to say?
If I said anything, you guys be cussing me out. So if anything, I'm keeping my mouth shut for you two's sake.
Okay, if that's how you feel.
Oh yeah.
All right. Second topic. EA's playing with the idea of a Battlefield 2047. Is that going free to play? So
About beeping time.
no, I mean if you pay for it, you're getting screwed because
Especially if you got one of those special collector's editions that were like hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was about to. I'm saying that because this is a yearly game that always
Battlefield's never been yearly,
or at least it feels like it.
Yeah, but it's never been yearly. Call of Duty's yearly, but Battlefield's never been yearly. It's always come out in like a 4 to 5 year cycle.
Huh.
Yeah, it's Battlefield 2042, not Battlefield 2047. So
I take that back because if anything, I thought it was one of those yearly games that finally got its kneecap shot.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. Let me put it this way. I am not the biggest EA fan, as everyone knows. I don't like the company. I don't like their practices.
If I remember right, EA is one of the game companies that are on your toilet list, along with Ubisoft, Bethesda,
Activision,
and Activision.
Yeah. But I mean, the thing about EA is about Battlefront 2047 is this game was clearly rushed. It needed another year in the oven because this game only had a 4-year development cycle.
Yeah.
And that clearly was not good enough to do what needed to be done. They should have pushed this back another year. And clearly, the year that they were working on it, like last year, COVID, the 2 years of COVID did not
help it at all.
Yeah, that disruption didn't help it, and they should have pushed it back another year. This is once again a game having the EA pushing a game out before it was ready in order to meet an arbitrary deadline. And now, when will these companies understand? Sometimes it's better to take that hit on the chin on the front end than to have something turn out like this on the back end. Because now they have to change their entire business model in regards to this game because we have to meet our deadline. Okay, you put out a game that's so buggy it's become a joke. Everyone's seen that joke for this game where the guy is riding a hovercraft up the side of a building, like completely vertical. It's like I've seen hovercrafts. They can't do that. Even in the future, they couldn't do that.
I mean, they're. I don't. It just baffles me. Do these companies care about their reputation?
No.
They obviously don't. They don't care about their reputation. They don't care about putting out a quality product. Obviously, the developers do. I mean, there are developers that just get burned out and just leave the industry because of all the games, uh, pun pun not intended, that these companies like to play.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, I mean, they obviously the developers want to create a quality product, but these publishers just want to please their investors and make a quick buck.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're like the people in charge are money people. They're looking at, okay, we need a product to come out at this time of year, so that we can generate this amount of revenue in order to stay in the black. I understand that. As a business owner, I understand having to get something out, even if it isn't where you exactly want it to be. But there comes a point in video games where you can release a game that's so bad and so buggy that it messes up the entire model. I mean, CD Projekt Red had that happen to them with Cyberpunk 2077. Activision is having that happen to them with Call of Duty. These companies need to understand. Sometimes the best thing you can do is delay a game. The investors are like, "Why isn't this game coming out? It's not ready."
Yeah.
And there's going to be a sell-off, but guess what? When you release that product and it's what it should have been or closer to what it should have been, it's going to be so much better than you releasing a game where the bugs are so bad that people are like angry about it, or people are suing you because you lied to them, or a vehicle that in no way, shape, or form should be able to go vertically up vertically up a building is able to do it because the bugs are so bad. Okay, especially in a game that has Battlefield 2047 has no single player. It's all multiplayer. So people are going to be like, this isn't one of those things where someone can come in and mod it and maybe make it to a joke, maybe fix it. Like, you can't mod a multiplayer game like that until the servers are down and it goes like private and you can do your own servers. Like, because the servers are all hardwired into EA's internal network. So it's a mess. It's a mess. It's embarrassing and it's a mess. And it didn't need to be this way.
No. I mean, again, these people just took their time and just, the problem is these companies are more focused, like they're the people that they focus on pleasing are the investors rather than the end user, the people who will end up buying their products, or the people who they want to buy their products. And then, obviously they don't treat their developers all that great with unnecessary crunch and
Yeah.
so
And it doesn't help that consumers who buy these products are stupid. And I know people say you shouldn't. No, you're stupid if you have been trained to accept mediocrity and, well, they'll fix it later. No, you should expect it to come out competently made the first time. Everything else on top of that is just extra stuff. It's like someone serving you a dish that you know is going to be jacked up, but if you send it back to the kitchen, they'll make it slightly better. No!
yeah, I mean, forgot what I was gonna say. Uh, oh yeah, I remember now what I was gonna say. We go through this every year with these yearly franchise with these games that come out yearly. Battlefield doesn't necessarily come out as it seems like it doesn't come out as often as say Assassin's Creed and Call of Duty. Um, but we go through this every time with these companies. They complain. You'll see 1001 YouTube videos that day or the next day after the game comes out talking about how buggy and how completely, half baked the game is. And they'll cry about it. And then next year comes around and we do it all over again. We have these same discussions every year.
Oh,
It's just like, you know, you could say the publishers, when are they going to learn? When are they going to learn to quit making shoddy products? Well, I mean, it also comes down to the consumer. When are you guys going to stop buying shoddy products?
yep.
When are you going to be like, enough's enough. I'm not going to keep spending my hard-earned money on these half-baked products. It should come out of the gate. I should be able to open that packaging, put the disc into my console, or download the game onto my hard drive, and it should
Play
be able
it.
to work.
Yeah,
It,
yeah.
you know.
Well, I mean, it's what you let someone get away with. Like, I mean, and this isn't like we're looking at the the triple A hard casual audience, which is what I call people who play first person shooters from like EA and Activision, stuff like that. But this is not the only. I mean, look at the people who play Pokemon.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they buy like every iteration, Pokemon. And that's why Pokemon hasn't changed. It's the same regurgitated trash over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If
and
you
this.
don't hold people to a higher standard and you just accept it, you're going to get trash.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm already regretting what this week is going to bring.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, might as well go on to the next topic. Pokemon Arceus got leaked. Yeah, Pokemon Arceus got leaked, and there are some um, pre-review footage of the game, and from what I hear, it's relatively well received. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens. When more people get a hold of this game, their
Okay.
reactions, and apparently, I also heard that Nintendo's online for the game. They're using some new system that is supposed to be. I guess by what it sounds like, they're actually using dedicated servers for the online aspect of the game rather than the peer-to-peer stuff that they've been using. And I've heard they use something similar with um, Monster Hunter Rise, which I heard played pretty smoothly online compared to compared to some of their other games. Not as many dropouts, disconnections, all the other stuff. But I know you guys don't feel. You guys are definitely not hot on Pokemon Arceus.
Well, actually,
Oh, I am definitely and not happy about that game.
I am not anti Arceus. I'm not going to play it, but I'm glad that it represents the Pokemon Company doing something different instead of the same regurgitated trash over and over again. Like at this point, I just
I
want.
quote that. I'll
Can,
remember that quote. Sorry.
can I finish, Joel, before you
Let him
cut me
finish.
off? Thank you. Um,
F it.
the thing is that at this point, I just really want them to. I just want Pokemon Company to do something different. Like I remember when I was younger during the 6th gen, and Genius Sonority did XD and Coliseum and Gale of Darkness, and I was like, this is a breath of fresh air. This is different than what we've gotten. In Coliseum, you played as a villain. You could snatch shadow Pokemon, and it was cool. It's like this is different. It didn't have the full dex, but it is what it is. And I was like, this is something that could be a nice little spinoff. And they made the second game for the GameCube, and then it just kind of went nowhere. And they went back to the tried and true and tried and like the same regurgitated trash over and over again. I just want something different. I'm tired of the same thing over and over again in Pokemon. I mean, it's like this. I am a huge fan of apple pie, but if all I had to eat was apple pie every day for dinner, for dessert every day for weeks on end, every month for months on end, for years on end, after a while, you would get tired of apple pie. I'm tired of the traditional Pokemon formula.
Yeah, people want to complain about Call of Duty. Look who they learned it from. I'm joking, by the way, but
and here's the thing. For the people who like traditional Pokemon, I'm not saying get rid of the formula, but give people the option to play a different way. Make a Pokemon game where you can choose to join team whatever and play, and it changes up the game. Or, let us play a Pokemon game where you can choose to be a Pokemon detective. And so you would basically get access to new TMs that only a Pokemon detective could use. Like, that let you arrest people and investigate stuff, find evidence and stuff. Like, do something there. I'm tired of the same thing. It's boring.
Well, that's how I feel about how you felt about the Pokemon games on the GameCube. That's how I felt about. It's kind of how I felt about Pokemon Tournament. It's like I was. It's like, man, when I first saw it, I was like, man, this is kind of what I wanted Pokemon Stadium to be back on the N64.
Yeah.
But it would be nice to see something different rather than the same old. Same old.
And I'm not saying that Arceus is perfect. I haven't played it. I just think that they've added enough stuff that changes up the formula from the usual typical Pokemon. Because, man, if I have to see one more Pokemon game where it starts out and you have to choose one of 3 Pokemon, and then you got to go and you get a rival, you have to some conspiracy, you have to go to multiple gyms. You like none of the choices you make really matter. Like none of them. And you can choose a fossilized Pokemon, but you can only have one. And half of the decks, like not half of the decks, but a good portion of Pokemon are exclusive to one version or another version. So you can't catch everything in one dang game. You got to have 2 games. I'm tired of that. I'm bored. I was bored of it during Gold and Silver, and that was the second generation. Like I've just been tired of it ever since, and I'm tired of it. I'm tired of the same. They need to change it up. Change it up.
The thing is, I think I only went past Yellow, just because of the fact that I was a kid. I was like 10, 11, and keeping up with Pokemon every year is kind of expensive. So
I used to borrow people's games.
Yeah.
Like I would wait until they came out with the third version that had everything. So like I got Red when it first came out, and then I got Yellow, and then I got Crystal, and then I got Emerald instead of Ruby and Sapphire.
Yeah.
And then they stopped doing that after a while because they were like, oh, these people aren't buying our initial versions. I used to be like, here's like, the thing is this, I used to be that guy where I was like, I had to have Pokemon. I would trade with people. I had the link cable. I would trade with people. I eventually got to the point where I stopped trading with people because people would give you bad Pokemon trades. So I'd trade with myself using my 2 Game Boys. So like I used to be that guy, and then I moved back. I'm like, this is too time consuming.
Oh, yeah.
And I went to other things, but it's just I just want Pokemon to stop being the same thing. all the time, or at least give us the option.
I hate the tedious nature of grinding all your all the Pokemon. I wish there was a way that you could just like have specialized groups and the Pokemon just level up together.
Well, they had that in X and Y, and then they dropped it at the subsequent games.
Actually, they still have it.
Yeah, but it's not
EXP, it's EXP all you, and if anything, you guys are still getting it.
They handicapped it a little bit in the later games, but
no, they haven't. I'm serious.
Okay.
They haven't. They haven't
Fair
gotten rid of EXP all.
Then I'm wrong. They didn't handicap it, but yeah, it is a little grindy. I don't know why. Why they made it more grindy than it needed to be, but you know.
Yeah. I'll just let's go on to the let's go on to the next topic. And the next topic, Dying Light 2 is getting a free update, a free HD update if you buy it for like the PS4 and get a PS5. You don't have to pay an extra $10 to get the extra to have your sliders turned up on the PS5 version. This has always been kind of baffling to me. They did this with the I guess I kind of understand why they did this to the PS3 and PS4 because it was different architecture, but I just find it baffling that there are companies out there that are like, yeah, if you want to, buy the cheaper version of the PS4 version, you're gonna have to pay an extra $10 to get the upgrade that adds really nothing new except it moves the sliders just a little bit further to the right. Get a higher resolution, some better textures, higher frame rate. It's just $10. Cough it up, but they're not charging for it.
They shouldn't.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
I mean, I mean, these companies are greedy, and they are going to do whatever they need to do in order to make money. I mean, I mean, at least they didn't pull a Nintendo and lock content behind another $60 purchase, like they did with the battle mode with Mario Kart 8.
Yeah, that really should have been on the Wii U, but the Wii U is, a Nintendo, by Nintendo standards.
They did it because they could. It's not even in Nintendo standards. Like, a company will get away with what they can get away with if consumers let them. Consumers said, we want the battle mode, and we're not going to say we want it on the console that we bought it on, even though that game had a huge attach rate on the Wii U. They made money on that game. But, they wanted to make more money, and gamers let them get away with it because gamers accepted it. So,
and the thing I noticed about Nintendo,
just like how gamers said that we do not want all these folders, we don't want all these features, we don't want.
No one said that.
Oh yes, they did.
No, they didn't.
Who said that?
Remember all those people. Remember all those people who during the Gamers at Large days where they were like, "Why is the Wii U failing?" Well, a lot of people said, "Well, it's because they're lacking features that other consoles have."
I was trying to say that.
A lot of people said that.
I'm trying to say this right now that some people are saying that the Switch does not have all these features that the Wii U had, and then I'm saying this.
It doesn't.
Because you guys didn't buy the Wii U.
No, I don't know who you're saying you guys, because I'm looking at my Wii U right now, and I have a bigger library for my Wii U than I do for the Switch.
I'm looking at these people that are saying that they missed some features that were on the Wii U, like folders.
I do.
Music.
I do miss those features. I think it's a darn shame.
And this is from
I can't organize my downloadable content library, my downloaded games library, because Nintendo, for some reason, can't be bothered to have a decent OS. And here's the thing:
it's because they have
you can't say, oh,
they,
they can't do
let him
it, because
finish.
they had folders on the Wii U, the Wii, and the 3DS.
Here's the thing: I was trying to say that the people spoke with their wallet, and they didn't go for that.
That doesn't make sense because the Wii.
What are you talking about?
The Wii.
Oh,
and the 3DS had the Wii and the 3DS had folders and those features, and those sold gangbusters. The Wii U didn't sell well, but I mean, I don't think that was a lack of features. I think that was just people being bandwagoning.
That's
the 3DS
that's the thing. That's the thing. I feel like they're treating the Switch like the successor to the Wii U, and in turn, since people didn't want the stuff that were on the Wii U, they didn't bring it to the Switch.
The 3DS got Netflix within the first couple of years.
Not even years. The first few months, it got YouTube, Netflix, all types of stuff.
And the Switch, we're in year 5, right? We're about to enter year 5 in March, and it doesn't even have Netflix yet. It's like
it does have Netflix.
It does.
Yes,
they finally added it.
They finally had it.
They added it years ago.
All right,
as in 2 years at least.
I guess so. I haven't heard. I remember they added Hulu before Netflix, which was weird, but whatever. Anyway, the whole folder thing, right? The whole lack of features thing, because people didn't want the features for the Wii U. No, the Switch to a certain degree was rushed, because investors weren't happy with how the Wii U was performing. Nintendo wasn't particularly happy with how the Wii U was performing. They were getting beat up by the media on every at every turn, whether it was justified or not justified.
So they said F it and went with the quickest, most efficient way. Look, as a business, I'm not against what they did. But as a consumer, it's like, okay, I have a ton of downloadable titles.
Mm-hmm.
I would really like to be able to organize my stuff. Because I've done that on every other Nintendo console that had those types of features. Like the Wii, I have a folder for N64. I have a folder for NES, SNES, Genesis, TurboGrafx 16, arcade games. I have a folder for that type of stuff. Within those folders, I have folders for fighting games, brawlers, beat 'em ups. I like organizing my stuff because it's easier for me to find stuff when I'm playing my games. Can't do any of that on the Switch. It's just whatever you can find on there. Oh, let me go find something I wanted to get back to a while ago. Oh, good luck finding it in there.
eShop, the way that's organized, even compared to the Wii U, is not very good.
Not acceptable.
Yeah.
It's not cool. It's not acceptable. And the worst thing is, I mean, this isn't like the days during the Wii where it's like this is Nintendo's first console where they're really diving heavily on a modern OS and a modern features. They've done this like 2 other times.
Yeah.
It's not like you can't use the excuse they're just getting into it. You can't. It's not realistic to use that excuse.
They've dabbled with online stuff before it was really even a thing for consoles, like the Famicom and the Super Famicom.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're completely new to this stuff, but.
And the N64, don't forget, because they had on the N64, they had they had online connection on that.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, on a modern, the way the internet is now, because I've looked at like the Wayback Machine internet thing, where you look at the internet like in the early '90s, nothing like it is now. So, like, I can't, it's not cool. It's not cool. But back to what you were saying. Yeah, Dying Light 2, they shouldn't be charging you to upgrade a game from one generation to the other. I mean, and if they do charge you, it should be like a nominal fee. Like I didn't get mad during the Wii U era, where if you want to transfer your games over to the Wii U, it was like $1 or $2 for a lot of them,
Yeah.
like between 50 cents to $1 to $2, depending on. I'm like, that doesn't bother me. When you're charging people like Square Enix, where it's like, oh, you want the next gen version of this game, it's $70, but the last gen version is 60. I'm like, why? They're functionally the same game. Just one is running slightly lesser specs. That's it.
Yeah, and I mean, they're the PS4 and PS5 and the Xbox Series predecessor running x86 stuff. So I don't get it. I mean, I do get it. Obviously, they want to squeeze as much money out of these games as possible because they only come out with like one or two games a year that they heavily rely on. So, anything
No,
else
I
you?
get it, but
Yeah.
I mean, I understand the business aspect of it, but as a consumer, I'm not happy with it.
Mm-hmm.
And like this is not like this is any of them. I mean, I use Nintendo as an example. When Microsoft, people forget. Everyone's like, "Oh, Microsoft's our friend." Did people forget for years Microsoft tricked these dummies into paying to access stuff they already paid for? Like, if you want to use Netflix and Hulu and stuff like that on a Microsoft console, you had to use Gold. So you were paying on top of paying for stuff you already paid for.
Really dumb. And I didn't get that. It's like, yeah, you have to pay in order to watch Netflix, the very thing that you actually already own or already are paying for.
Yeah, I'm like, you know, I mean, and this is all of them. All these companies now charge you for online. When like 90% of the games that you're playing on these, and they say, well, it's because it's for us to pay for our online infrastructure for our games. But here's the problem: 90% of the multiplayer games that are on these consoles are peer to peer. So it's using the heavy lifting of your internet in order to do the online multiplayer of these games. So you're basically giving them free money
Yeah.
for
I mean,
something that you already pay for.
yeah, I mean, that's the, I mean, what was going on with the Xbox 360 was that a lot of the online stuff that you were doing on games was peer to peer. So it's just like kind of like, what are you paying for? You're not paying for dedicated servers.
You know. Now, if you're like Valve, where like a lot of those games that are on Steam are using like Valve's own servers
Yeah.
or a subsidiary of their servers, but they don't charge you for it.
Nope.
It's free. As
Yeah.
long as you like, basically, you can use Valve's online service if you buy one game a year. And it doesn't even have to be a AAA game. It could be like a $5 game. You can.
Yeah.
So no, I'm not cool with paying for an online service. Especially when most of these games are using peer-to-peer servers that I'm already paying for with my high-speed internet.
And I don't know how much they do this anymore, but I at least remember on the 360, um, they probably still do this. How they have a bunch of ads, uh, on their on like dashboards and stuff for various different stuff. I don't like I said, I haven't I don't really play consoles that much.
Well,
Or at least the P. I I don't really play the PlayStation or Xbox that much anymore. But they so I mean, if you're already running ads, and why are you making people pay for something if people are already, yeah, some of the if companies are already purchasing ad space to run on your console. I don't know.
I agree. What am I paying for if it's peer to peer? No, what am I paying for if you have ads on top of, plus Microsoft is taking your data and selling it to these companies so that they can have the ads in the first place. It's like, what am I paying for?
Yeah.
What why are you charging people to use stuff they're already paying for? I don't understand that. And
Yeah,
no, it's not
exactly.
because I'm cheap. It's just, I don't understand BS. That's but I think we beat that dead horse.
Yeah, yeah. So, Call of Duty's in limbo. So I guess which one of the things I'm guessing PlayStation fans are probably gonna freak out about. That is, obviously there are people who still care about Call of Duty. Um, Call of Duty might be exclusive to Microsoft in the future.
Future?
Yeah. So I mean I don't know because like Minecraft, even though that Microsoft bought Mojang, uh, Minecraft's on everything from phones to tablets to consoles to computers.
Yeah.
Mm. So it might be the same case unless they find a benefit to having exclusive. They might have exclusivity rights to certain aspects of the game, but they may not make the game completely exclusive. I mean,
Well, I mean, I don't think it matters. I think either way. This is money going. Like basically, Microsoft is going to do to Sony what Sony did to Microsoft for two console gens. Because don't forget, or just doing to them right now. Because don't forget, the Xbox um, Series X base model and the Xbox One used Blu-ray players. So every time Microsoft sold their two last gen consoles, they had to give a cut. Like they had to write a fat check to the Blu-ray consortium, and some of that money went to Sony
yeah,
because Sony is part of the Blu-ray consortium.
yeah,
Um, so like every time Sony sells, like every time a game sells on Sony, that's money being funneled back to Microsoft if this sales goes through.
yeah, yeah,
So it's just it's payback, man.
yeah.
It's
It's just like if every time Call of Duty sells on Sony's console, Microsoft gets a cut. Anytime DLC sells on Sony's console, Microsoft again gets a cut of that. So,
yeah.
but yeah, it's
Those
gonna be
microtransactions, they get a
yeah,
cut.
yeah. It's definitely gonna be interesting to see. Uh, definitely interesting to see how they end up handling this Blizzard acquisition, Activision Blizzard acquisition. Um,
Um,
yeah,
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but what I will say is, at this point, I'm just like,
Enough already?
well, I mean, in terms of Activision Blizzard, I think Microsoft buying them, like, I'm not one of those people who's like, yeah, Microsoft. Anytime I see less competition, because this means less competition. One of the major
That
third-party publishers is being
that's
bought
all.
out.
That's as I already know, and that's the sad thing too. But if anything, I was gonna say enough already. This thing is this guy. This company is right at death's door, and as much as I don't like seeing them being bought because less competition, it's kind of good that know that they're being saved, even if it's by weird means, like
Well,
a Mickey Claus wish.
the thing is that they weren't on death's door. It was bad. It's like seeing a fighter in boxing take a lot of really tough hits, but they're still not going down. But it's like their eyes are swelling shut. They're favoring one side because they can't see out of the other eye because it's swelling shut. But they still aren't out. But it was looking bad for them, and Microsoft taking them off the field. Like for gaming, this is not good because, like I said, you have one of the major third-party publishers and developers being taken over by first party. I mean, it'd be like Nintendo somehow buying Square Enix. That's just really bad business.
Yeah.
But it's bad for gamers because here's what's going to happen. Okay, this is why I foresee Microsoft bought Activision. They want Activision's IPs in their library. They want to leverage everything Activision has under them, and they have a lot of stuff under them. King Games,
Blizzard Entertainment,
Blizzard, all the stuff, just a whole bunch of IPs under them. Microsoft is going to get those games and add them to their
games,
to their library, to their Game Pass library. Okay, and basically they're going to say, "Hey, you want to play these games? You go through us," and they're going to charge more for it. Game Pass is going to go from like $15 a month or $20 a month for the Ultimate Game Pass to like 40 or 50, and people will pay it because, man, look at all these games that are underneath here. That's what's going to happen. It's not good. It's not good all around. I think it would have been better for Activision Blizzard to take their lumps and learn their lesson, and stay independent. But it didn't happen that way. So
yeah. But next topic is 6500 AMD 6500 apparently isn't very good. So they announced, when they announced this card, they're like, we're gonna gimp it so miners so it deter people from using it for mining. Well, they in doing that, they also gimped it for the primary thing that they're selling it for is gaming. One big downside to this card is that sorry, it only has 4 gigs of VRAM, which is barely enough for 1080p gaming, and you have cards that are relatively around the same price that their MSRP that they're selling this card for, and that are much better and have more VRAM. So just another failed attempt at trying to deter people from using cards for mining. I don't know.
I think it was also that. I mean, they're saying that, we're making these cards because we don't want people to buy them for mining. BS.
I was gonna say, how likely do you believe that? Because that kind of story is as tall as Bitcoin being able to replace gold.
Well, right now Bitcoin is actually valued higher than gold, but that's neither here nor there. The reason that I call BS is they put both Nvidia and AMD put out a subpar graphics card. And not just for gaming. Like, you can't use this graphics card for anything because both of them only have 4 gigabytes of RAM. So if you're someone who's like, okay, I am a YouTube streamer and I need a rig that'll let me do some video editing so that I can get my videos out, or I'm a teacher and I need to be able to do video editing in order to get my lesson plans out, my visual lesson plans out. Anything that you would want to do that would require a card that has a decent amount of visual, like the bare minimum of visual RAM in order to do X, Y, or Z task, these graphics cards are no good for.
No.
Forget gaming, because 4 gigabytes of RAM, unless you're playing like unless you're playing a super downgraded version of Minecraft, 4 gigabytes of RAM, you can't do anything. Like even the Switch, which is a very underpowered console, would laugh at 4 gigabytes of RAM.
Well, the thing is, it's just, I mean, because I had when 4 gigabytes of RAM, VRAM to be more specific, um, was in was the go-to back in the day, back in 2013, 2014. I mean, you could at least do 1080p, but again, these were older games. Newer games, probably not, probably not as well, since a lot of these newer games are using more assets, using more features, like So yeah, you could definitely play older games with this, but newer stuff, uh, the lower your expectations. That's all I gotta
Yeah,
say.
yeah. I mean these. I mean, and what AMD has been saying, and I don't know what Nvidia has been saying, but I'm guessing it would be something similar. Is well, these were designed for to be used in concert with our uh,
CPUs.
CPUs in mobile and like not in tablets and laptops. Okay, then why wouldn't you just have these working in concert with those particular CPUs? Because right now you're selling these by themselves as a graphics card, and the great thing about a graphics card is that if you upgrade your rig or you buy a new rig, you can take out your graphics card and put it in, slide it into a new rig. No problem. And these graphics cards are useless all around.
I was about to say they're useless before they come onto the market.
Well, you can't use them for anything. You can't use them for you can't use them for gaming. You can't use them
Thankfully, they
for
can't be used for mining.
video. Yeah, and you wouldn't want to. You can't. I mean, basically, they released a graphics card that no one wants. But I think the only reason they did this was so that they could like have a product come out. That's what this is. This is a
Yeah,
product that came out.
keep their investors. Help keep their help make money for their investors, so their investors aren't breathing down their throat, wondering why products aren't coming out. Possibly.
Yeah, but I don't think people are going to buy this. That's the thing.
No.
Like this, the only people who might buy this are because there are some people who still want to build rigs who are like desperate to have something.
I was gonna say this is probably the only thing that's gonna be able to be used for rig building.
You're either buying this maybe for your kid, or you're buying this for like indie games and emulation and older
Not even good for
older
emulation
titles.
though.
Yeah.
Emulation of a certain type.
At
Because
least
if you're trying for
Okay,
newer games, no.
at
if you're
least
emulating everything below
N64.
fifth gen, you're fine. Everything above that, you're gonna have problems because 4 gigabytes of visual RAM is not enough.
well, I mean you could, just because just as long as you keep the resolution at its native resolution, and you don't try to go beyond that, or at least try not to go beyond 1080p. A lot of emulators are written to the CPU, so you definitely, as long as you have a decent CPU and an okay graphics card, you're you're all right. But yeah, I wouldn't. I wouldn't waste your money on these cards. I'd just get like a generation below of get a mid tier card, a generation below the cards that are out now, like 5700 XT or the 2070 Super, if you can find it for a reasonable price.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's just like these graphics cards are useless for everyone. Like I said, if you were just built like if you were building a rig, proof of concept for, let's say you were taking a class on computer engineering.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fair enough. But for actual usage, no.
It's, you know, for 3050 Ti might actually be more useful because it actually has 8 gigabytes of VRAM.
Oh, well, how much does it cost though?
That's a good question. How much does it cost? MSRP RTX.
Mm-hmm.
It's 249 MSRP. So you're better off
Yeah,
spending if you can find it at MSRP. Good luck. Um, you're better off just spending the extra $50 for the 3050 Ti.
yeah, that's your best bet. Because I mean, 249, 8 gigabytes of RAM. It's not great, but I mean, 250 is better than what you're getting from AMD.
Yeah.
You know, and this is the company that last year said 8 gigabytes is not enough. It's not enough RAM to do anything. And
Uh,
yet this year, due to chip shortages and transistor shortages and bottleneck issues, like, yeah, this is good enough.
I don't even know why this card has the RTX name. It's like it it
It
doesn't
doesn't
have
feel like it at all.
no, it just doesn't have the necessary cores to do ray tracing at a respectable level. I don't even know why it has the RTX name. So
You know what? I think they added it so that they could basically say, "Hey," because a
We
lot of
got
people
something
buy
else.
graphics cards with because they have all those lexicons on it. You know, it's
yeah,
RTX and GRD and
yeah,
XT and all that stuff, and they don't know what it means. They just know that it's like someone buying a an XT vehicle because it has XT on it. They don't even know what that means.
yeah. It's just it. The last year's model only had an X. This year's model has an XT on it, so it must be better. It
Yeah,
must have more features.
yeah. Certainly does sound cooler to say XT though. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. well, well, is there anything else you guys would like to say about that before we move on to the last topic?
I got
I was
nothing.
gonna say that was you guys for sure.
All right, so there's still there's still people who believe in the console war. So I was listening to a commentary video uh, by a YouTuber named Griffin Gaming, and he was commentating over um, somebody complaining about God of War coming to PC, or complaining about the idea that Sony shouldn't Sony shouldn't release their first party titles day and date um, because they uh, he's since he bought the console, Sony owes him these the 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 exclusive rights. Uh, not the exclusive, but since he bought into the PlayStation, he deserves those games to be exclusive to his system. Uh, he said he was okay with those games coming out 2 years later a year or two later. But day and date is like that would be insulting. Um, and I was thinking, it's like if you were born between the year 2001 and 2007, like 2001, 2007, you're used to growing up in a world where everything was pretty much on everything. You probably had at least either played with a smartphone, had a tablet, and everything was just on everything. Whether you were watching, movies on Netflix on your tablet, then you move to your phone, then you move to your TV, or you're playing Minecraft on your tablet, then you move to your computer, and then you move to your console. Uh, you know, everything was everywhere. Or it's gotten to the point, or we're getting closer to that point where everything's basically on everything else. So, this idea that people still cling on to, mainly pertaining to Microsoft and Sony, um, cling on to the whole console war and exclusivity. Those companies have Microsoft and Sony. Microsoft specifically, Sony is moving towards just completely moving on from let's just, making a game for one particular console. Obviously they've been talking about their Project Spartacus and wanting to create a Game Pass like system. So I hate to break it to you, but in the near future, you're probably going to see first party titles from Sony day and date also be on PC and also be on, you know, various streaming services that, like, their PlayStation streaming service. So, yeah, it isn't the 90s anymore. What do you guys think?
As far as the graphical arms race goes, yeah, I think that the console wars is mostly over at this point. For exclusivities, that's a little bit iffier to me.
Well, the console wars wasn't. I mean, I guess it is. Was and well, honestly, the whole console wars thing wasn't entirely real. It was just marketing to get people to buy consoles and to sell games to people. And somewhere, somewhere along the way, people took it seriously, too seriously.
Okay. Guess I'll dive in. Let me get my swimming cap. Put it on.
Oh boy.
I think it is both true and false. It is a statement that is the console wars didn't exist is true, but it's also false, and I'll explain why. In my opinion, the console wars, as fanboys say it, your console versus my console doesn't matter. It's inconsequential.
Mm-hmm.
What these companies are really fighting for is your money. Okay, they want your money. And even though there's people's like, I'm a multi-console owner. I have multiple consoles, not all of them, because I can't find a PS5 to save my life. But but I do have an Xbox Series X. I have a PC. I have a Switch. These companies are fighting for your money because you have a limited amount of entertainment dollars for anything.
Yeah.
Okay? It's like if you wanted to watch a movie on a Friday night, you wanted to take a date, okay? And you say, I have a budget of $80, okay? 2 tickets, let's say the tickets are $14, so let's say $30 for the tickets, okay? Plus tax, $30, okay? And then, you're probably going to get something to eat while you're at the movie theater, so that's another at the minimum $30, possibly more. Let's say another $30. So you spent $60. That only leaves $20 for a drink, maybe 1 or 2 drinks after, and you're over because you got to pay for a tip. So let's say $100 for that date. So you basically watched a movie for 3+ hours. That includes the pre-show credits. Maybe had some popcorn and 2 drinks. Maybe went to a bar afterwards and had a few beers or a few cocktails, and then went home. $100. Boom. That $100 could be spent at a large amount of places, even at the movie theater. That $30 you spent for the 2 tickets. There's so many other movies that you could be seeing at that theater. All those movies are competing for your $30 to see that movie. The money that you're trying to spend on these games, on these consoles, they're all competing for that pool of money. Okay, because most people aren't made of money. They have a limited amount of resources they can spend on entertainment, and these companies are fighting for that money.
Yeah.
So even though they might not be competing directly with each other, Nintendo's not in a graphical arms race with Sony or Microsoft or PC, but they're all fighting for your money.
Yeah.
They all want you to spend. Nintendo wants you to spend your $50 a year on their service. They want you to spend $60 on their games. They want you to spend $30 on their expansion passes, season passes, whatever you call it. They want you to pay for it. Okay? And if you're spending money like that on your Switch, you don't have that money to spend on a PC game or the Xbox or the PlayStation or whatever. You have a limited amount of money to spend on that. So while the console war, the direct console war, these companies are still fighting for your money. They're still doing whatever they want to do in order to get your money. And I'm not gonna lie, Microsoft with their Game Pass is really attractive.
Yep.
I mean, I have it on PC, and for $10, you get access to a lot of games for $10 a month.
Yep. I mean, and when Nintendo says, "Oh, we're not competing with Microsoft and Sony," it's like, yeah, they are and they aren't. They are in the fact that they are fighting for your essentially fighting for your mind pertaining to video games and whatnot. They want you to invest more into them than they do in the Microsoft and Sony pertaining to games and maybe other facets of entertainment. And they aren't in the sense that they're not in this graphical arms race like the other two. So it's a half truth when they say that.
I'm not against it. I'm going to be honest with you. We got some of the best games ever when these companies were fighting against each other in direct competition.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone's like, oh no, we need to move beyond. No, we don't. Do you know how bad things were? Do you know how awesome stuff was when these companies were competing against each other with games?
Oh yeah, that's great.
The 16-bit generation was great.
Oh yeah.
Nintendo, Sega came in with Sonic the Hedgehog and all those games for 2 years. Then Nintendo said, "That's right, we're gonna give you a head start. You can go ahead. We're gonna give you a 2-year head start. Go ahead. Look, run along. I got something for you. Let me pop the trunk. I'll be right back." Okay, and they went to the trunk. And they came out with something that was hot, and they said, "Hey, look at the Super Nintendo! Oh yeah!" And they would compete against each other, and who won? The gamers won, because we had good games on. No matter what system you owned, you had great games.
Oh yeah.
If you had a Sega Genesis, you had great racing games, great sports games, great platformers, great beat 'em ups, some pretty good fighting games once you got a 6-button controller. You had some really good gaming on your Sega Genesis, except for RPGs, because there was not a lot of RPGs on the Sega Genesis. If you had the Super Nintendo, you got some decent shooters, not to the same level of the Sega Genesis, but you can't have everything. You had some great RPGs, you had some great 2D platformers, you had some great beat 'em ups, You had some really good 2D fighting games. I mean, like these two would shoot at each other, and you got some good games. Even towards the reason you got games like Donkey Kong Country was because of the PlayStation.
Yeah.
Because Sony was like, they can't do 3D on that system, and Rare was like, I beg to differ. Donkey Kong Country.
Yep.
And we got Donkey Kong Country, which arguably, in my opinion, is like the best. Like Donkey Kong Country to me is better than Super Mario World in terms of gameplay mechanics and the way it feels to go through a level. Better than Super Mario World, and Super Mario World is darn near perfect as a 2D platformer. Donkey Kong Country, the original, better. But you know what's even better than the first game? The second game. It's even better than the first one.
Which this doesn't happen as often.
Nowadays, once the seventh gen came and everyone was coming out with their own stuff, and like they stopped competing directly with each other, it got boring.
Yeah.
It's gaming was never more exciting than when these companies, even when they failed miserably. Like the only reason Connect and PS Move exists is because of the Wii. Sony and Microsoft were trying to compete with Nintendo with the Wii.
I mean, the thing of there wasn't really all that. They were called the PS3 and 360 were called the HD twins throughout that generation because there wasn't all that much different to them. They had a lot of the same games. Really the biggest difference is one had a free online service that was terrible, and one charged you for an okay online service, and then one had a crappy controller and the other one had an okay controller. That was that was basically
Basically,
yeah.
yeah.
And
I
one
mean,
had
there really was no functional difference between the two consoles, except they did have exclusives that were pretty cool, like the original Saints Row on the original uh, Xbox was Microsoft's answer to GTA,
yeah.
and it started as a GTA clone.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean PS5 PS3 at the time was the cheapest Blu-ray player on the market, so I guess it had that going for it.
Yeah, but these companies, they aren't facing off against each other, but they are fighting for your money.
Yeah.
And they're trying to entice you with games and services and features, because that's what right now they can't compete with games because they all basically, except for Nintendo can fight with their games because so many of the best games for that Nintendo has are Nintendo exclusive. Like if you want to play the next Smash Brothers, you better have Nintendo's next console. You want to play the next Legend of Zelda, you better have their console or gaming device, whatever, because the Switch is more of a hybrid. But whatever Nintendo comes out, whatever box they come out with, you better have if you want to play their stuff. And that's how Nintendo's fighting. Microsoft is saying, hey, we've got features. $10 a month, Game Pass, that's a feature.
Yeah.
So, I don't want to say the console war is over, but like how the weapons that they're using and the tactics that they're using have changed, and not for the better. Like when the seventh gen came and Microsoft and Sony were getting functionally the same games, and the exclusives were underwhelming. Like Gears of War to me is underwhelming. I know a lot of people like it. It's underwhelming to me.
Yeah, the
Um,
generation was kind of bad just for the fact that a lot of the games on those two systems weren't very colorful. It was just like gray, green, drab. It like yeah, and obviously Shadow Fox, he explained why they didn't use color because color required more resources that those consoles just didn't have. So yeah, that was kind of also a lot of the games. It was the shooter generation were a big portion. of games that came out during the 7th gen were just a lot of them were shooting
FPSs.
FPSs. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and I'm not against FPSs, but I was into FPSs before they became like when they still had color
yeah,
on PC. When we had stuff like Doom, Doom 2, Duke Nukem 3D, Shadow Warrior, stuff like that. Like the stuff that I see now, where it's just like I remember they used to have this thing where they showed Battlefield, Battlefront, Call of Duty, and Brotherhood, Brothers in Arms, and a screenshot from all four games, and they looked very similar to each other. And I'm like, I can't tell the difference between all four of these games. They look the same.
yeah, yeah. It was 8th generation. That was more. It started off as kind of more of the same, but it kind of drifted into open world games. But I mean, obviously those games look different from each other. It's just the problem is
You
it
can only
just
do so
seems
much in open world games.
with what?
Like, you can only do so much in an open world game.
Yeah,
Like, like basically, even Breath of the Wild, which a lot of people like, it's a breath of fresh air to the Zelda franchise. I'm like, it's an like basically take the gameplay design from any of the Far Cry games, the later the modern Far Cry games, where you basically go to a tower to unlock the map and find more stuff, and that's basically what you're doing in Breath of the Wild.
yeah, yeah,
Like you go to a tower to unlock the area, and then you use your telescoping thing in order to put a map marker where you think a shrine is, so that you can use your glider to glide down to the shrine in order to get an orb. Get enough orbs, you can trade them in to upgrade a stat. I mean, it's just like open world game. Like, and I'll be the first person. I like open world games. I've liked open world games since the 6th gen, but it hasn't changed. It's the same thing over and over again, and it's boring.
yep, yep. Well, there's one last quick topic I'll like to bring up before we close out the show. Um, Apparently there's a group of people that's working on a PC port to Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, and they have uh, they have come a pretty long way, and it's rumored that it could be released in the next few weeks. Uh, they've created a compiler. If you've ever played the Super Mario 64 PC port, they have a compiler software that essentially makes it so it can run on your PC. So what we could end up seeing is a lot of texture mods, HD mods, higher frame rates. So yeah, I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to that. Um, have any of you played the Super Mario 64 mod or the PC port?
No,
No.
No,
I
it's
eh, I
it's
don't feel
okay.
comfortable playing Mario 64 on a PC.
Uh,
This doesn't feel right. It
well,
doesn't feel right.
a lot of the part isn't like perfect or anything. It's definitely has you know definitely has a lot of stuff going for it. Which when you play it, you kind of get disappointed in the fact that Nintendo didn't do more with the 64 port for the Switch.
I mean, Nintendo was kind of like in a catch-22. Like personally, I would have loved for them to do a port instead of doing like okay, they have the original game for the 3D All Stars, but they also included as an unlockable 64 DS. That would have been cool because that adds a lot. Like 64 DS adds so much extra content to the original 64. More stars, different playable characters who actually do play very differently from one another, new power ups. new areas. It's like the only flaw is that it was on the DS and you had to use like like Mario 64 was made for the analog control stick.
Not a
It doesn't
D-pad.
it doesn't work with a D-pad or like I know they're like, well, you could play it with the stylus. Why would I want to play an action game with a stylus?
And this is
Makes no
something that
sense.
I was about to say. That does make as much sense as playing Diddy Kong Racing DS.
With a stylus. It's like, why would you do I like normally when Nintendo has a gimmick for their games, I'm down with it. I'll let it ride. But the DS, there were some of my favorite games were ported to the DS, and then they had stylus controls, and I'm like, why? Why? Why would you do that?
As I said, that made as much sense as putting stylus controls in Diddy Kong Racing DS. So take that as you will. Oh boy.
That basically, yeah. I'm not upset about the PC ports of these games because this means people will mod them and add new silly stuff. Like I see the ports of Breath of the Wild where they've added like Sonic the Hedgehog and CJ from San Andreas and new dungeons and stuff like that and actual real variety of bosses and not just, hey, it's Ganon, but now he's got a halberd instead of a sword. I like the concept of people taking these games and doing things that the original creators just didn't have time for, or went against their designer, developer sensibilities. I like people's flexing their creative muscle. But there's just certain games where I'm like, I don't really want to play this on PC, and Mario 64 is one of them. I just don't.
Yeah.
I'm happy for the people who are enjoying it. But I just don't really want to play that game on a PC.
That's I mean, you could rig a 64 N64 controller.
Yeah, I could, but it's just not the same.
yeah, I get it. But anything else? Any of you would like to bring up before we call it quits?
That's it.
But,
Then allow me then, boys. Thank you for joining us at Project Console. We will return to you at the same time next Tuesday. Or if you join us at the BS Busters, join us at 7:30 every Wednesday and Saturday.
all right. Well, thank you all for joining the show, and we will see you next Tuesday at 7:30 Eastern Time. Later.
Later.
Thanks.